Top security officials discuss a new intel report that raises questions on just how effective those strikes on 3 Iranian nuclear facilities were. Those strikes ordered by President Trump targeted those facilities in Iran, but a defense intelligence report first quoted by the Associated Press says the damage may have only delayed Iran's program by a few months. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth dismissing that report, saying it's just not true.
Decisive military action. President Trump created the conditions to end the war, decimating, choose your word, obliterating, destroying Iran's nuclear capabilities.
Well, military leaders say it will take time to know the full impact, but right now they're backing the White House's claim that this strike did major damage. Turning to Capitol Review is John Byrnes. He's the Strategic Director for Concerned Veterans for America. John, welcome back.
Thanks for having me, Mark. Always glad to talk to you.
We're always glad to have you. You served in the Middle East. There was concern of U.S. men and women perhaps being in harm's way for retaliation from Iran. Was that the first thing that you thought about?
When the strike hit, one of the first things I thought was, Iran will retaliate. Will they do something with terrorist organizations? Will they do a cyber attack? Will they go after shipping in the Strait of Hormuz? And of course, will they go after our service members who are spread throughout the Middle East? And they chose the last one. I'm praying, we're all praying for those service members there in Doha and in Bahrain, in Iraq. Turned out, in this case, Iran was virtue signaling and showing that they could attack U.S. forces, but didn't mean to hurt them, didn't mean to, they deliberately missed, and our missiles shot down most of them anyway. So, fraught situation. Obviously, the past week has had a lot more developments with, the president saying there was a ceasefire, Israel saying that they were going to honor it, then they weren't, that there was, the Ayatollah saying that America wants to depose us and overthrow us and make Iran surrender completely. So it's a very complicated situation. It's still developing, and it's going to be a problem for the United States for the coming weeks. The best outcome, of course, is a peaceful Middle East.
You're right, John. There's so many layers here, and when you hear people talk about regime change, that usually is associated with boots on the ground, and that's something that most Americans, again, don't want to see. Like you said, it's still early, but when we talk about regime change, history shows that that involves our men and women on the ground.
Absolutely. And that, for us, for Concerned Veterans for America, is a red line where we're really going to step up. We have been absolutely opposed to putting boots on the ground in the Middle East anymore. We're actually working pretty stridently to bring home the last 3,500 that are there between Iraq and Syria right now. There's really no reason for that. We're on Capitol Hill all this week doing our annual Vets on the Hill. And that was one of the messages that we sent to many of the congressional and senatorial offices that we talked to, that it's time to not only bring these guys and girls home, but to get some of these authorizations for use of military force off the books, especially the one around the Iraq war. We're no longer at war with Iraq.
John, are you hopeful or optimistic that diplomatic efforts can be effective? And clearly that's the way to keep our men and women from harm's way.
Well, one of the greatest wartime leaders in the Anglosphere's history, Winston Churchill, is famous for saying, jaw, jaw, jaw is better than war, war, war. So I've learned as I've gotten older that diplomacy it's better to exhaust diplomacy before going to war than to get frustrated with diplomacy very easily and begin a war prematurely.
Do you think the U.S., specifically President Trump, has the burden to try and bring peace in a region that really hasn't had peace in our lifetime?
I don't think President Trump has the burden to bring peace to the region. I think President Trump has the burden, and I think the desire, he stated his desire, to keep America at peace. That's the primary responsibility of the President of the United States, is secure Americans' national security, our vital interests, and to do everything possible to keep us at peace. And he said he wants to be the President of peace.
John Byrnes, thank you so very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Mark.